Hey guys, it's Ethan. 2 days ago I made a video about how post effects affected our frame rates. Well, that got really popular. And on Reddit, a lot of you provided your specs and how post effects affected you. The information I was given and that was provided by you guys has prompted me to do more testing and make this follow-up video. Before I get to the testing, I want to discuss some of the Reddit comments because they'll become relevant later. One user with an RTX 2060 claims that they get 54 to 58 frames without clarity. With clarity applied at 60, they still get 54 to 58 frames. These numbers will become important later, so I'll note them on the screen. Another user with a GTX 1080 and a Ryzen 2600X claims they get 92 FPS with post effects off. Their average FPS with everything at default and clarity at 100 is also 92. Their average FPS with post effects on and everything at default except for adaptive sharpen, which is at 100, is 92. Their average FPS with post effects on and everything at default except for clarity and adaptive sharpen at 100 is 91. Unfortunately, I wasn't given enough information to calculate any percentages lost when it comes to FPS. But for the next segment of this video, which revolves around my new types of testing, there will be. When I retested my previous testing for the last video, I was given the same results. Or at least, I was losing the same amount of frames per setting I chose. At this point, I decided to play around with my graphics settings. I messed with my render resolution and my actual resolution. This is why I'm making this video. When I retested my previous testing for the last video, I was given the same results. Or at least, I was losing the same amount of frames per setting I chose. At this point, I decided to play around with my graphics settings. I messed with my render resolution and my actual resolution. This is why I'm making this video. My unlocked FPS at 1080p was 135 FPS. Enabling clarity dropped me down to 120 FPS. That's a 15 frame loss. Trying adaptive sharpen also brought me down to 120 FPS. Again, that's a 15 FPS loss. Now why is this significant? Well, when I was at 2560 by 1440, getting around 80 FPS, I only lost 7 FPS average from enabling either adaptive sharpen or clarity. However, at 1080p with 130 FPS, I'm losing 15 FPS from enabling adaptive sharpen or clarity. I theorized with Reddit that if you had a higher FPS, maybe your computer had to work harder to apply the effect to each frame, lowering your FPS more significantly when you have a higher FPS. The data seems to support this hypothesis because I lowered my resolution and gained FPS, but when I enabled the settings, I lost nearly double my frame rate as when I was on 2560 by 1440. Now what conclusion did I come to? Post effects doesn't inherently affect your FPS the way I thought it did. You don't lose a static amount of FPS from using certain settings. You actually don't even lose a proportionate amount of FPS from using certain settings. The frames that you lose are actually mostly dependent on your original FPS. This means if you usually have a high FPS, you're going to be losing a lot more than if you had, say, 60 FPS. There is a silver lining, however. If you have a very high FPS, you can probably afford to lose some FPS for the effects given, but that doesn't mean that this is fair, nor should it be in the game. If Battlestate Games is going to take away Reshade and NVIDIA Filter, which are programs that actually provide a low FPS decrease way of adding effects onto the game, they should at least make their version of the post effects work. Right now, there is so much that we still don't know, and so much they still haven't told us. If we just had a little bit more information from the developers, we could maybe understand why this is happening, what we can do, what we need to avoid, and how they can fix it. Anyways, because we don't have that information, I can only leave you with this. Post effects is really messed up right now, and if you aren't okay with the frame rates you're getting, disable post effects, because it definitely is not helping. Anyways, that's all from me. If you liked what you saw, give it a like. If you have any constructive criticism, leave a comment. If you like the content and you want to see more of it, consider subscribing. Come check out my Twitch. I'm now streaming weekdays 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come say hi. If you want to know more about upcoming videos or interact with my community, join my Discord server. It's brand new and I think it has potential. Anyways, again, that's all from me. See you later. Bye bye.
I look at the sky whenever I feel there's something wrong. I look at the sky whenever I feel there's something